Attention, and we appreciate you coming down, and we'll call to order the Metropolitan Planning Commission meeting of June 9th, 2022. I want to welcome everybody to the meeting. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Commissioners, the agenda was sent out earlier. We'll need a motion to adopt the agenda. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next is item C, which is the approval of the May 26, 2022 minutes. And those were also sent out earlier, Commissioners, and we'll need a motion to adopt the minutes. There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion or edits for the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes have been adopted. So now we are on to the recognition of the council members, and I've only seen one so far. Council Lady Van Rees, how are you? Please, would you like to come up now? Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak. I have one item on the consent agenda, but it's of significance, and I wanted just to kind of put a flag in it. I think it's number 14. I could not be more excited to know that the Memorial Foundation is planning its return to its home in Madison. The excitement of the renaissance of our area is reflected in the beautification of Skyline Ridge Drive. First with Music City Solar, then the 808 at Skyline Ridge offering amazing affordable housing, and the work at the altitude at 41 down at Dickerson Pike, balancing the affordable mixed income neighborhood that this old road that went to nowhere is now become. The commitment to work on public greenway access and continued beautification from the stakeholders along this scenic location is encouraging. All of us have formed a monthly meeting that we have the first Wednesday of every month to compare notes, to talk together, and to make sure that as stakeholders begin to develop the area, a community focus is always in mind, and a neighborhood association begins to form. We are happy to see this scenic location become home to the critical work of the Memorial Foundation, and I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to make note of this historic moment and appreciate the item on the consent agenda today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate you coming down. All right, I don't think I see any other council members. So I just want to make sure Lisa, you don't see any others? Okay, when they come in, we'll recognize them. All right, thank you for coming down, Council Lady. Next is item E, which is items for deferral withdrawal. And go ahead. You're back.
I'm back by popular demand.
Back. I love it. Go ahead.
Okay. Items for deferral withdrawal on tonight's agenda. Item number 1, 2021 SP 063001, Charlotte View West. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting. Item 2A, 2022 SP 016001, Newsom Place. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting. And the associated item, 2B on page 4 of your agenda, 8485P 005, Biltmore PUD cancellation, which is a recommendation to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting. And I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recused from items 2A and 2B. Continuing on page 4 of the agenda, item number 3, 2022 SP 023001, Autumn Glen. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting. Item 4, 2022 SP 030001, 930 McFerrin. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting. Commissioner Blackshear is recused from that item. Item number 5, 2022 SP-003-001 Shoreview SP. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting. Item number 6, 2022 SP-040-001 2635 Gallatin Avenue Dog Daycare. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting. On page 5 of the agenda, item 7A, 2022 HLI 001001, 518 Russell Street Historic Interior Overlay. Staff recommendation is to defer to the July 28th Planning Commission meeting. In the associated case, item 7B, 2022 NL 001001, Tulip Street Church Neighborhood Landmark Overlay. Staff recommendation is to defer to the July 28th Planning Commission meeting. And I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recused from items 7A and 7B. Item 8, 2022 Z054PR001. Staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. And item number 9, 2022 S079001 Williamson Homestead. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting, and Commissioner Blackshear is recused from that item. And I believe that is the end of the items for deferral.
All right, Commissioners, you've heard the items for deferral withdrawal, but we'll go through these and make sure that I get these correct. And so the items are items number 1, 2A, 2B, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7A, 7B, 8, and 9. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, you've heard the items. There's been a motion and is it second? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and those items are deferred. So now we're on to item F, the consent agenda. Go ahead.
So items on the consent agenda tonight, I will read through the items on the tentative consent agenda and ask if anyone is here in opposition. If so, please raise your hand, and if there is someone in opposition to the items, these items will be presented. If no one is in opposition to the item, it will be on the consent agenda. On page 5 of your agenda, 2022 CP 008-001 is a North Nashville Community Plan Amendment. Is anyone here in opposition to this item?
Which number is that?
Sorry, that is number 10A.
Thank you. Anyone here in opposition? Go ahead.
And the associated case, item 10B on page 6 of your agenda, 2022 SP 013001, Second and Van Buren. Is anyone here in opposition? Okay. Item number 11, 2022 SP 037001, 2121 Crestmore Road. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? Item number 14, 2022 Z059PR001. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? And item 16, 2022 S123001 Moss View Heights. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? Okay. And now I will read through the consent agenda with the full caption. As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by filing a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. As a notice to the public, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. Item 10A, 2022 CP 008001 North Nashville Community Plan Amendment, a request to amend the North Nashville Community Plan by changing from urban open space and district industrial policy to urban mixed-use neighborhood policy for properties on 2nd Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve. And the associated item on page 6, 10B, 2022 SP 013001, 2nd and Van Buren, a request to rezone from IR to SP for properties located along 2nd Avenue North. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions if the associated plan amendment is approved. If the associated plan amendment is not approved, staff recommends disapproval. And I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recused on items 10A and 10B. Item number 11, 2022 SP 037001, 2121 Crestmore Road, a request to rezone from OR 20 to SP zoning for property along Crestmore Road. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 14, 2022 Z059PR001, a request to rezone from R10 to OR20 for property along Dickerson Pike. Staff recommendation is to approve, and I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recused from that item. And item 16 on page 7, 2022 S123001, Mossview Heights, a request for a concept plan to create 43 cluster lots on property along Moss Road. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. And item number H on the agenda, item 17, an employee contract renewal for Lisa Milligan. Item 18, accept $30,000 from the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce to provide supplemental funding for a music venue study. Item 19, to accept $10,000 from the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation to provide supplemental funding for a music venue study. And item number 23, to accept the director's report.
Thank you. Good job. I guess Lisa's coming back. Or staying, not coming back. All right. Sorry, as I digress a little bit. So, Commissioners, you've heard the items for the consent agenda, and I'll read these items and make sure that we're correct, so we're all on the same page. So, the items on the consent agenda that will be approved with one vote will be items 10A, 10B, 11, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 23. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Excellent. And just, Commissioners, I don't know if you looked, I'm sure you have, but I'm very excited that we're continuing to do the music venue study. And I think that's really important as we are Music City. And so I want to thank the Nashville Chamber and the CVC for helping with that. All right. So you've heard those items that are put on the consent agenda. Is there a motion? There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. And those items are passed on the consent agenda. And so for everyone, the items, Director, I think the items that we're hearing tonight are items number 12, 13, and 15. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Logan, are you presenting?
Yes, Chair, I am.
Okay.
My name's Logan Elliott, the Planning Department. I'll be presenting item 12 on tonight's agenda. The request is to rezone from RS15 to R15, and staff's recommendation is to disapprove the application. The application includes a single parcel comprising approximately 0.39 acres or approximately 16,500 square feet and is located on the west side of Meadow Road in the Bordeaux neighborhood. Meadow Road is a local street and the property is 1 block to the west of Clarksville Pike, which is an arterial boulevard. The site currently contains a single-family residence that draws access from Meadow Road, with the remainder of the street having a similar pattern. The Planning Commission recently considered a rezoning application in this area in 2021 for 2 properties, one being on the same side of Meadow Road to the south, and the other being on the eastern side of Meadow Road. You can see the R15 parcel just east of the subject site. Staff supported the request on the eastern side of Meadow Road due to several factors, including the mixed-use policy and mixed-use zoning that is adjacent to these properties that abut Clarksville Pike, as well as these properties' proximity to the center and corridors identified in Nashville's next growth and preservation map. Staff did not support the request for the property on the western side of Meadow Road because the property is located more interior to the neighborhood in a mid-block location and is adjacent to the lower intensity policy area of neighborhood maintenance to the west. Here we can see that policy situation. This site is within the neighborhood evolving policy, which intends to create and enhance suburban residential neighborhoods with more housing choice, improved pedestrian and bicycle connectivity, moderate density development patterns, and moderate setbacks and spacing between buildings. The policy describes that successful infill and redevelopment in existing neighborhoods takes into account considerations such as timing and elements of the existing developed character, such as the street network, block structure, and proximity to centers and corridors. Staff finds the request to not be consistent with the policy at this location and this time. The suburban neighborhood evolving policy indicates that existing character should be considered when reviewing infill proposals, and staff finds this area to have a primarily 1-story suburban residential pattern that does not support additional density at this time. The site is interior to the street block into this neighborhood and is not located near a center corridor as identified in Nashville Next. Additionally, the site is on the edge of a less intense policy, being neighborhood maintenance, and therefore staff recommends disapproval of the application. Thank you. That completes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And so we'll open this item for public hearing. And so is the applicant in the room? I don't see the applicant. All right. Anyone wishing to speak in favor and support? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, there's no rebuttal, and I don't see the council member. And so seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. And Mr. Tibbs, you want to go first? Commissioner Tibbs.
Since no one's here, I have no comment. I support staff recommendation.
Is that okay? Okay. It was.
There we go.
Okay, sorcerer, get the magic touch. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Tibbs. I agree with staff's analysis. Doesn't look like we have anyone really to ask questions of. So, I mean, I could make a motion unless folks want to continue.
Yeah, is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? We always like to make sure everyone, speaks. This was something I think the chairman did back in his day. And so you started this great making sure that everyone has time to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, what do you want?
No. So, yes, Commissioner, no one else wishes to speak. Thank you, Chairman. So motions in.
I will make a motion to approve staff's recommendation of disapproval.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? There's a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of disapproval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and item number 12 is disapproved. We are on to item 13. Logan, you doing this one too? Okay.
Yes, Chair.
All right.
Thank you. My name is Logan Elliott, the Planning Department, and I'll also be presenting item 13 on tonight's agenda. The request, again, is to rezone from RS15 to R15. Staff's recommendation is to disapprove. The application includes a single parcel comprising of approximately 0.36 acres or approximately 15,000 square feet and is located on the north side of Fairview Road in the Bordeaux neighborhood. Fairview Road is a local residential street, and the property is approximately 2,000 feet west of Clarksville Pike and Arterial Boulevard. And the site is currently vacant and is surrounded primarily by single-family with some two-family land uses. The policy for the area is suburban neighborhood maintenance, which intends to maintain the general character of the developed suburban residential neighborhood, and neighborhood maintenance areas will experience some change over time, primarily when buildings are expanded or replaced. Staff does not find the requested zoning district to be consistent with the intent of the neighborhood maintenance policy to retain the existing character of the neighborhood in terms of development pattern and building form. The site is interior to the street block and to the neighborhood, is not located near a center or corridor, and therefore staff finds the existing zoning to be appropriate for the location, considering the policy and context of the site, and recommends disapproval. That completes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And so we'll open the public hearing for this particular item. And is the applicant in the room for a presentation? Seeing no applicant, anyone in the room wishing to speak in support? Anyone, seeing no one wishing to speak in support, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, no rebuttal, and I still don't see the council member. So seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. And Commissioner Henley, you want to go first? We try to rotate.
Sure, I'm going to do what my fellow commissioners did. Since there's no one present to speak on behalf or in opposition, I have no further comments.
So does any other commissioner wishing to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, Commissioner, you want to make a motion?
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation of disapproval.
That's a proper motion, and the chairman seconds. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of disapproval, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and item 13 is disapproved. So that leaves us to our last item, which is item 15. But before we start this, it's in a little different position than the last two items. So we've already had the public hearing. So if legal could tell us where we are on this particular item and the posture of it.
Yeah, so the public hearing has already been opened and closed, and I think my understanding is that it wasn't noticed for a public hearing for this, so we're past the public hearing stage and on to discussion stage.
That's a little different because the last two items we held a public hearing, and we had already held a public hearing since there is no other material evidence. And so we are here on discussion for this particular item at this point. And so, Commissioner Johnson, you want to go first for discussion? So we're on discussion.
Sure. I think at the last public hearing, there was some comment about this subdivision will connect Hoggett Ford Road to Centennial. But I think the proposal states the southern portion of the proposal is a cul-de-sac. So I'm thinking it's literally not connect Forget Hall to Central. So staff comment on that?
There's a stream that runs across the property on that southern section, so that would be difficult to make that connection to Hoggett Ford.
Thank you. So my next question is, the comment coming from public as well as council member was to have emergency gate at the northern portion of, what's the street name? Pierside. Yeah, Pierside. What is the current condition of that street connection?
Sure, and since, go ahead, Lisa.
Lisa, would you pull up the site plan
Yes.
if y'all have it? I think that would be easier for everyone to.
respond to.
There.
Forgive me for interrupting.
Yes, no, of course. Okay, so since the last meeting, we have continued to have conversations with NDOT, Nashville Department of Transportation, and the fire department as it relates to the overall network and connectivity within the area. There are currently 2 stub streets into the property, one at the north, Pierside Drive, and one coming in from the east, Greenwood Drive. Greenwood Drive is part of Hermitage Point neighborhood, which was built a couple of years back. And so there are currently 2 stub streets that were intended to connect. The plan as proposed does connect to both of those streets, which would be something that we as staff would require. The subdivision regulations point us to have interconnected street networks, and those were built not as permanent dead ends, but as roads that would eventually extend. So we talked with NDOT to discuss the possibility of a gate at one of those connections. It couldn't be both, to have the possibility of a fire access or fire gate at one of those connections. And essentially what we found, sort of digging through and doing more research with NDOT, is that there's really not a mechanism for gating a public road in that way. Now, we know that there is one near here. There is questions of whether or not that should have been done. That's what we're finding out now from having these conversations with NDOT. And so if there was some desire on the part of the Planning Commission to not have both of these as vehicular connections, then our recommendation would be to only build one of them, to not build a second one with a gate, because we don't think that there is a method by which we, Metro, could approve a gate on a public road. Does that make sense?
But to clarify, the
Yes,
staff's recommendation is to leave
Yes.
both open as a street
Yes.
because the commission approved subdivisions with a substreet for that purpose. And so that's what our recommendation is at this time, and NDOT agrees.
Thank you for the clarification. So my next question is,
Chairman, I'll get to you in a minute. I'll get you next.
I think at the last meeting, I think council member commented Greenwood Drive has some kind of crash gate. So could you explain to me, is Greenwood Drive is connected to the subdivision to the east, or it is not connected?
So that is the gate that we've had discussions with NDOT about. So when Hermitage Point was approved, it is connected to its subdivision. It's not connected to its subdivision that is to the east of it. And so in other words, there was a crash gate installed there on the eastern portion of Greenwood Drive. And what we have sort of come to the conclusion of is that perhaps that should not have happened. And so it is only connected right now, Hermitage Point to the road to the south. It's not connected to the neighborhood to the east.
Thank you. So, see, I am kind of having really hard time on this one because the way I see it, this particular parcel is currently rather landlocked. So without coming from either Greenwood or coming from, PSI, so there's no way to get to this parcel, property. So there was a lot of comment from community, especially, during the construction, the nearby neighbors are asking construction truck not to come through Hermitage Point, but I think it's realistically impossible because, you cannot cross the stream, and nor you cannot, fly by to bring the construction material. So in that sense, I'm having a hard time, and as well as I think street connection, our planning point of view, it's the right thing to connect Greenwood and Pierside, because that will give, enough street connection. But at the same token, if we do that, currently a kind of strangely isolated, established community, neighborhood, especially, the subdivision to the north, it will eventually invite about 250 plus neighbor to coming through their local street to go to Central. So I'm concerned about their, street plan, because those are not collector street, rather local street. So even though this subdivision is only asking additional 18 parcel, the street connection, because connect each Greenwood and Pierside makes sense, and, but at the same time, sending additional 250 neighbors to that local street is a good policy. I am struggling with that, so I'm interested here, other commissioners, on that note.
Thank you, and I think Commissioner Lawson had a question. Commissioner.
I got two questions.
Oops, Commissioner, turn your mic on.
It doesn't light up.
There we go. You're on.
First of all, we're talking about a preliminary plan, a design plan for an application. Is that not correct?
This is a concept plan for subdivision,
Right.
yes.
Okay. When you went and talked to traffic and parking with this particular application and they approved it, what was their rationale for approving it versus disapproving it? Since they're the gatekeeper.
NDOT and Traffic and Parking have both approved the application as submitted with both connections.
So by what standard would they have, what types of standards, if I may, would they have approved that? What were the criteria that they looked at?
Sure. A traffic study is not required for 18 units, and so there would not have been a traffic study. They would have reviewed it essentially to make sure that it meets the standards in regards to road cross sections, appropriate intersections, those technical standards for street construction.
As I listen to my concerns, I think as I look at this entire project, as it was presented to the Planning Commission as a concept, a lot of things change when you do concept planning. And there's some things that could work out later on down the line when you go for your final approval that crop up, and it didn't when you were in the concept plan mode. So I think as it is, with all of these agencies, the Nashville, DOT, and all the rest of them, looking at this, even the concept plan and saying, it's okay with us. That's our process. That's our process to look and see what the utilities think about an application. Will it bother their delivery of service or what? So I tell you, this one was tough because I wrestled with this one, but I think the staff is right in recommending approval for it.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman?
Thank you, Chair. This is one of those, again, where I enjoy my role on this because I get to go out and see other parts of the county. So I went and explored this area and all the different subdivisions. And I think the main thing to me is, especially seeing the numbers, but the experience of traveling through the subdivision to the east that connects to Dodson Chapel is, it's a beautiful subdivision. It's got lots of sidewalks. It's got lots of amenities, but almost zero, only one connection to a street, right? And then, and so that really limits accessibility through the neighborhood. Then you have that crash gate, which I was like, well, how did that get there? And was kind of surprised to find that. Then the subdivisions to the west also are under construction, beautiful homes, great sidewalks. Some places there are little mini roundabouts with grassy spaces and folks walking their dogs. There are a lot of amenities, I think, from a pedestrian standpoint, at least, that are being built into the subdivisions today. However, for the subdivision to the north that connects to Central Pike, it's more of an older kind of a subdivision with no sidewalks, right? And so one of the things that kind of struck me is that at the time is that if we are going to have additional car traffic going through an area, I personally believe it's more appropriate to have that going through an area where at least there is sidewalk infrastructure present to protect the pedestrians than to the north where there is not. And I believe that that's what I heard as well from Councilmember Roten, is that it would be more appropriate, if we were to have a crash gate, it would be more appropriate to have one to help divert traffic from Pier side, in consideration of that pedestrian safety standpoint in a neighborhood where it's going to be very difficult to retrofit that neighborhood with sidewalks. It likely would never, it would not rank highly probably on the sidewalk network prioritization. They would almost have to get to a point where they could rank high enough in the county to get to the neighborhood traffic calming application process, which could happen, but if traffic were to increase there. And so among the options that are available, what it seemed to me at the time and what I believe I've heard from Councilmember Roten is that it would be more appropriate to have a gate, a crash gate that separates Pier side than the other alternative. So just want to throw that out there, but I look forward to hearing what the other commissioners say.
Commissioner Henley.
Well, very similar to council member, I actually took the time to go and look at it, and I entered from Chapel Road, and I believe this has of course been addressed, but I was surprised at how much you kind of meander through that neighborhood and that community. And I thought about it from a buyer standpoint, and that was kind of my main thing is how does buyer look at this with that one entry point and this numerous amount of homes? But I know that's been taken into consideration. But I did the same thing. I approached that crash gate and I was kind of looking at it and I was like, But what came to my mind was that I entered through Chapel Road, and if for whatever reason there was an obstruction, you've got 100 plus homes that you just really have a challenge getting to. So I understood it then. But I did also go on a weekend and I saw there was a pretty decent amount of traffic in the area. As we know, when you give a cut through, people will use a cut through. And to the points that the council member made, I think it is a great opportunity for some potential traffic calming, but there's a process that takes a lot of time. And I don't know how that can, be modified as a developer, because I know it becomes a public street. So for me, I'm a little bit torn as well. I felt like the connection to Greenwood does usher in, having both of those connections will usher in people that want to navigate through the community, specifically to reach Hoggett Ford Road. With that being said, I think now that I'm finding out that isn't really an option, it does give me a sense of pause, because I thought that was the solution. Coming in here today, I thought that was the solution. There's a crash gate. It was done in the same place. You drag that same solution down, a couple blocks, and we're there. I don't know. I would like to see it move forward with a crash gate. I know that may not be the option, but I would like to see if there's other solutions or deterrents for having people be able to transition through that neighborhood.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tibbs, we're checking with legal to see specifically the legal situation with the crash gate, and then we'll come back. We'll give you an update once we do it. Commissioner Tibbs, you want to go ahead?
I don't have a whole lot to add. Actually, I think Commissioner Henley and Councilman actually hit most of the things I was going to bring up. Actually, all of the things I was going to bring up. The only thing I was just curious about is apparently all of the subdivision requirements have been met. I know that that's things that we want to make sure of. I guess I'm leaning more toward, approving, going with staff recommendation. I don't see anywhere that there is anything we could possibly challenge. Am I correct on that?
Yes, everything meets subdivision and zoning requirements.
Yeah, okay. I kind of just wanted to make sure I said that, so.
Everybody, hold on one second. We're getting a legal. All right, so sometimes in our meetings, we have legal questions that come up, and so we're just trying to answer those legal questions. We always try to make sure we're doing the right thing. As y'all know, we try not to get sued by the parties. So we're working on that, and we're going to resolve that in 1 second, commissioners, and then we'll take action. All right, everybody. Sorry about that. Like I said, sometimes legal questions come up. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and talking to our legal counsel, and I appreciate everybody doing that. So Alex, our legal counsel, is going to give us an update kind of where we are on this, because we have some procedural issues that need to be explained.
Yeah, in order for the commissioners who weren't present at the last hearing to vote on this one, they're going to have to watch the video of the last one, and we weren't able to send that out. So, and additionally, we're going to have to defer, and at the next meeting, we'll have to notice it. We don't have to do that. So we just defer one meeting, they'll watch the videos, then they'll be eligible to vote at the next meeting.
So commissioners, any questions of legal counsel? So the posture is this, that procedurally, we don't have enough votes to pass it tonight, and we just found out about that. So we apologize for that. And so we'll need a motion to defer one meeting and not open the public hearing back up. Okay. Yes. All right. Chairman makes a motion to do that. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion on the motion for a deferral one meeting? Yes, Commissioner Henley.
Just so I'm clear, between this meeting and the deferral, are we able to see, or will any changes be made to what's been presented? Is that possible? I guess I shouldn't say will it be yet, but is that possible?
Well, and I think that there's some ongoing discussions between the neighborhood and the developer, and we'll get an update at that time on that. Any other questions? So we have a motion second for one meeting deferral. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and deferred one meeting, and it will not be on public hearing. And so that brings us to other business. That concludes our public hearings. And so we are on item 20, which is historic. Commissioner Johnson.
No report from Historic today, Chairman.
Okay, and Parks, Jeff is not here. Executive Committee, the only thing that I have is in the summer, we have summer meeting hours. So we're only meeting once in July and August. And so commissioners, we're meeting, our next meeting would be June 23rd. And then the following meeting is July 28th. And so just make sure, Lisa sent out an email. Just make sure, sometimes we have quorum issues, so just make sure you communicate whether you can attend. Next one is June 23rd. That is correct. All right. And now we're on to the director's report.
Hi. Okay, so just to reiterate, we very much hoping you can share with us any summer plans that might conflict with the calendar. I'm excited about a work session on Monday. We're going to be talking about the alternative to the conservation development that has passed council. So cheers on that one. And so now we're turning our attention per this body's request to flatter properties. And we have some ideas for all of you to discuss with us so that we can take that approach to council if it's something that this body is supportive of. Second, I went up to council yesterday. Thank you, Councilman Withers, for co-chairing a meeting with Councilwoman Allen. So it was a joint planning. And am I stealing your thunder? Okay. So I went and gave a presentation around the East Bank CIB items and received some very good questions and feedback. It was a good conversation. I think we are coming near to the point when a work session with the commission would be very productive on the East Bank. And so I'll work with the chairman and you to get that on the calendar. But we're coming to a point of having some public sessions this summer. So I want to make sure the commission is informed of our progress. I think we've done a really nice job on this one, so I'm very proud of the staff. And then last but not least, I know that many of you have heard that our dear friend and colleague, Bob Lehman, is going to a really great opportunity to head up the department in Brentwood, and we are so thrilled for him. We're going to miss him, and his contributions to the department have been innumerable, and he's been such a good partner and friend to me and mentor to all of the staff. And so I'm going to miss him, but I'm also just feeling so positive and excited for him to go and lead a team. And I think, so it's super bittersweet. We will have something fun to do for him. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but you will all be invited, and we'll be in touch on that front. So he's not even here.
He's not even here.
Tell him we're not going to let him go.
And I think Bob's been one of the longest serving staff members in the department. Is that right, Lisa? 20-some years?
Over 20 years. I think Bob started out as a planner one at planning.
So he's easily. So we're going to miss Bob. He, behind the scenes, has done so much for the department. I know for all of us as commissioners, whenever we had a question, he would help us. I think he even hired Lisa, I think. Is that true? See, Bob's a legend. We're going to miss him. Going to miss him. All right. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. And
I'm Lucy.
Director Kent. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else, Director?
No, sir.
Okay. Legislative update. Councilman?
Thank you, Chair. Metro Council is in the final stages of our budget hearings. We did have this is a busy week. We had regular committees on Monday, other committees and a public hearing on Tuesday. We had our special call committee yesterday, and then Planning Commission tonight. And my colleagues are at the final budget work session tonight. So we're earning our paychecks this week. But was pleased to hear some public comment in support of the housing planning staffing. So was pleased to hear that from the public, because we know how much the community is concerned about affordable housing and how we can come together to find strategies to make that work in a challenging regulatory and market environment. But we will see how we do, but look forward to finalizing our budget on the 21st. So thank you.
Thanks for all your work, Councilman. We appreciate it. Seeing no other business, is there a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned. Thanks, you guys.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.